All right, let's do the same video we did yesterday again today. This is the Fatality. I don't want to do this. How about let's do a different motherboard that's almost the same with a few fewer bells and yeah, whatever. This is the Taichi. And we're gonna basically just give you a really close look at the entire motherboard. We're not gonna go into the UEFI and the overclocking and all that sort of thing, because it's really almost identical to the Vitality we did yesterday. And if you want to see some of the, some of those numbers and just see how the UEFI looks and all that kind of stuff, just go and watch the other video and just pretend that the UEFI has a different skin on it, okay? But right now, we're just going to jump right in with Josh and give you guys a full tour of this board. Let's do it. Yes. Oh. I like the steel ID on this one. So this motherboard that you're looking at, if you watched our ASROCK Z370 Fatality motherboard yesterday, review, it's like almost the same, but there's a few, I guess, sacrifices that were made here, but it's still an awesome board. It's really almost the same. But we're going to go through this board.
Spoiler alert, it's the 10 gig is missing.
Yeah. So we're going to go through this board as if you didn't see the video yesterday, and just tell you exactly what's going on here. First off, CPU is right there, 40 lanes of PCI Express goodness going all over the motherboard, so they don't have a PLX chip, even though I would take one, but hey, no PLX chip on this one. But right here we have a 12-phase digital VRM.
If you didn't watch our video yesterday, it's the same exact VRM as the Fatality Gaming i7. It's a 12+2, coming off of an Intersil ISL 69138 7-phase 450 amp VRM controller, running into Sinopower SM7431 FETs, which are throwing out 30 amps continuous forward and 44 amp continuous drain amperage, and behind or above that is a 60 amp alloy choke lineup, one for each FET. And then in front of that, leading up to the socket, are 12K Nichicon Japanese caps. We've seen them use them before. We love them. They're super, super awesome. Thank you, ASRock, for continuing to use them. And then you have your LGA 1151 socket.
And this is going to drive a lot of clean power to the CPU. The overclocking on this has been very easy so far. I mean, they've had a lot of time to refine this because it's really just Kaby Lake with a fancy hat on and 2 extra cores.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had a lot of time to work with this. And a lot of the components are made specifically for this. Next up, we've got pump power header right over here. And then there's your CPU fan header right there. A couple more fans floating around there. DDR4, you can push the hell out of this stuff. I mean, they give you some, official stuff in the box, but with overclocking, you should be able to get it to 4,000 plus, depending on the modules you go with. XMP switch on board, easy enough. And then down here we've got 24-pin power connector. Right there is going to be your USB 3.1 is right there. Actually, this used to be 3.1, and this will do Gen 2, and whatever your front panel, Type C, whatever it's going to be. Right up here we have another L-shaped USB 3, 8 SATA connectors, some chipset, some as media. So there's as media controllers freaking everywhere on this board. Down here, front panel connectors, RGB connector, fan, USB 2. That's going to be a Thunderbolt header, optional. If you want a Thunderbolt for the front, go ahead and smack it on there, or the back, whatever. Then you got your TPM, that's your trusted platform security business from Intel. Jumper for clearing your CMOS. Now you got your HE audio port right here, and you got your specific audio capacitors right there. It's using the Realtek 1220 7.1 channel audio. This is using Purity Sound. They both have, this one and also the Fatality, they both have an amp. This has the NE5532 amp. That'll power up to 600 ohm headphones. So if you got some really awesome headphones, you should be fine just plugging into here. 120 decibel signal to noise ratio. So pretty good stuff right there. And then we can check out this area here. Look at that steel reinforcement on all these, so you can put some nice beefy heavy cards.
You've got PCI Express X16 for one graphics card, and if you want to run 2, it'll PCI Express X8 across both of those, and you can run 3, and it will run at X8, X4, and X4. But that's only for AMD Crossfire.
One thing that's interesting about this is they're not running it all at 16, 16, 16, 16, 16, 16. You've got 40 lanes, but they're using a lot of those for all these M.2. So we got 3 M.2 spots here. I forgot to mention we have 2 1X slots right there.
So your bottom M.2 are going to be up to 110 mil drives if you have those, and your top M.2 is limited to 80. So you can do 22 110s in the bottom, and then 22 180 or 2280 on the top, and then those take PCI Express lanes off of the CPU, and they can also take SATA from the SATA controller. If you use the SATA on the M.2, you lose a couple of your SATA ports, but you don't lose all of them.
Now there's another M.2 kind of hiding up in here, but right now it's being used for their AC wireless module that's right there, but you can take that out if you wanted to. I have to unscrew it from the bottom, but there's another little vertical M.2 right back here just hiding. One other thing I want to mention, and this is probably one of the best things about this motherboard, is right here. We actually have the BCLK engine.
It's just a little IDT clock gen, and it's the same thing you saw on the Fatality. It's the same thing that ASRock did with Z170, even though Intel told them not to. ASRock are rule breakers here, but we love that they added it. We played around with the IDT chip, and we had some really good success with Coffee Lake doing BCLK overclocking.
Now what does that mean, BCLK overclocking? If you're someone who buys a non-K CPU, the multiplier is locked, and that's usually the way people overclock. It's the easy way to overclock, and Intel's been trying to lock down the front-side bus overclocking, which is messing around with the strap, which the BCLK. That's pretty much what it is. This allows you, by means of a chip on the freaking board, to overclock that, even if Intel's trying to lock their chips. So you can overclock your non-K parts using this, and it freaking works. And it's a wonderful thing, good way to save money and still get something that's overclocked. Thanks, ASRock. All right, let's look at the I/O on the back. There's your 7.1 channel audio right there. Got your SP diff at the bottom. A couple of USB 3, and then we've got 3.1 Gen 2, and then we've got dual. That's Type C and regular Type A. And then we've got dual gig Ethernet, and you can go in and team these things up if you wanted to get, 2 gig, do that. Also in the software, you can do some packet prioritization by means of the ASRock software. Beyond that, we have DisplayPort, HDMI for the onboard, graphics and all that. And then we've got 2 antennas here for the wireless AC, so that's nice to have. And then we've got PS2 combo. If you wanted to get a Y, you can go into UEFI and configure that to be mouse and keyboard. A lot of people should be just using this for the keyboard. For that hardware interrupt, baby. Below that, we got a couple more USB 3 and then a CMOS reset button right over there on the side. That's the Z370 Taichi. Still a very loaded board. You're just sacrificing not much, just the 10 gig. And you've got one hell of a motherboard here that does a really good job with overclocking with a lot of cool features. And right now, what you need to be doing is looking at your budget and saying, do I need all these bells and whistles? Do I want to do this? Do I want to be able to overclock and all that sort of thing? So ASRock's really done a good job with their top-end Z370 boards this time around. Get a shirt, guys. Why don't you? How about it? If you don't buy one, somebody else will, then you'll be left out in the cold.
But if you don't buy soon, we're gonna have to chop you up and put you in the bucket.